Hi, my name's Michelle, and welcome to Trying to Understand Some Legislative Terms. Today we're going to be talking about initiatives and referendums. We're just going to talk about the definition of them and then how they're used to create legislation, as well as the democratic process and it being direct democracy. So let's just get started with what is an initiative. An initiative is a process by which U.S. citizens can propose new laws of constitutional amendments by collecting signatures. So they can do it on their own. It gets placed directly onto the ballot for voters to consider and then approve or reject it. Whereas a referendum allows voters to consider and approve or reject a legislation that has already been passed. So both legislators and citizens can bring forward a referendum, um, and they can challenge any new law. So a small recap is that initiatives create laws and referendums review the laws. Both involve citizens, which is part of the direct democracy of some constitutions, including the Arizona Constitution of the 1900s. And both you have to collect signatures, and the signatures have to be verified. So that is the basic process that they both contain. Um, and then, of course, you have to have a majority vote. You can bring any of these referendums or initiatives to the table of the legislative branch, and but that has to be passed by majority on the ballot. Um, so let's just go over some pros and cons. Like, why are these good ideas? So, for initiatives, it gives citizens a voice, an opportunity to possibly address something that their legislative lawmakers are missing or avoiding. Um, and then it also creates the democratic process and involvement in civics discourse or discussion. Also, if they had maybe elected an official and they said we're going to do all these things, and then once they're in their seat they don't follow through on that, then the citizens can come together with an initiative and say, hey, we'd like this passed. The cons are it also can be influenced by money and big corporations. They could get together to create an initiative that wasn't necessarily what the majority of the citizens wanted. And it also can just be complex for voters, maybe a grassroots that wants to create something, and their expertise might be lacking. So to have an initiative brought forward takes a process that maybe citizens aren't aware of. For a referendum, you have the pro is it gives governmental power check, which is what the idea of direct democracy is, because it for sure protects the voters in case a law gets passed and they say this isn't what we wanted. Similar to initiative, um, the other saying this isn't what we wanted. Now we have a chance to protect voters, as well as it gives increased accountability to those who haven't sworn in and ceded, that if they follow through on something that their constituents didn't agree to, they can have a referendum brought against them. Um, a con of this is voter fatigue of having to then vote for the representative to find a seat and then be like, wait a minute, that's not what we want. Now we have to do this referendum once they passed a law. It can delay needed legislation, so a law might go through, and then the citizens say this is, or other legislators could say that. And then it also can just reduce the content or the intention of the law or the legislation that through the referendum process they say, well, okay, how about like this, and then it can be agreed upon. So that's the basic of the initiative and the referendum. So one way to look at it is that an initiative is very proactive. You're initiating something, you're starting something. And then the referendum is more reactive, like something has already started and you say, hey, wait a minute, I want this to be different. So a great analogy for this is sports, that you can have the investors or the I for the initiative say, these are what we think have been the rules in the past, but to make the game more equitable for everybody or more enjoyable, let's shift the rules this way for the coming season. And then once those are in place, maybe the referee then says, with instant replay or something like that, hey, these are the rules and the laws, but we're not quite sure about that. Now, in this analogy, it doesn't give the spectators necessarily the ability to call out the referee. However, we know all on social media, spectators are well versed in criticizing referees. So that's a little bit of an analogy and what they're like. And what's great about them is, as I have said in the beginning, direct democracy of the people for the people. The people then have another chance to say, this is working for me, this isn't working for me. In about the last decade, there's been about 29 different initiatives and referendums, and with limited success. However, that is even in the Arizona Constitution. Um, the I think that the founding fathers would have been very much in for the discussion and would appreciate that that level of democracy centuries later was still being used appropriately. So that's the difference between an initiative and a referendum.